to Representative Donald Norcross. He's a Democrat from New Jersey, and he's on the Armed Services and the Education and Workforce Committees. Congressman, welcome to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Wanted your reaction to President Trump's framework for a deal on Greenland.
Interesting question that, quite frankly, has been going on not only here in Congress, but literally around the world, is how can the leader of what is considered the greatest nation in the world with one of the greatest alliances called NATO decide that you're going to take by force one of your partners? So the idea he has been batting around literally for years, but intensely in the last couple months. And the idea that finally that caught his attention was when his stock market took a crash because of their statements. So the idea that he says he's not going to do it by force, listen, when his lips are moving, I don't think he's always telling us the truth. It's good that he said that, bring the temperature down around the world, but the idea that he has floated out there, just broken alliances trust, which was put together by the blood of our grandfathers in World War II. It's one of the most disappointing moments in our history.
Congressman, do you agree with the president that Greenland is vital for the security of the United States?
Absolutely. Just as Canada is, Mexico, all those surrounding us. But let's be clear, the National Defense Strategy, which the Department of Defense puts out and with each new administration, talks about the hot spots, the items that we need to pay attention to and worry about. Had nothing on Greenland. So the rhetoric that he is dispensing to the American people doesn't match what his Department of Defense is saying. So we have been involved in Greenland for years. We at one time had 17 military bases. During his administration, along with others, they've cut that back that we only have one base there. So if he really cared about the national defense strategy, the defense of our country, why would we cut back on all those bases? Again, the rhetoric coming out of Donald Trump is just remarkable.
We had a caller this morning, Congressman, say that he didn't believe that even if President Trump had ordered an attack, a military attack on Greenland, that the generals and the admirals would obey that order, that they would refuse that order.
Ooh.
What are you hearing from military leaders about this situation in Greenland and NATO in general?
Well, I sit on the NATO Parliamentary Assembly, and we are meeting in Belgium in 2 weeks. And I can only imagine the conversations we're going to have. We have, in many ways, been defending Trump to NATO for quite some time. But the idea is that we'll always be there for you. I was watching Trump last night say, I don't know if we can depend on NATO. Well, we had an Article 5, which invokes the NATO to come to our defense. When they attacked during 9/11, they were there. So the idea of not trusting our closest allies is not only wrong, but it's not good for America. And the idea that somehow our defense wouldn't listen to the commander-in-chief is something that should scare us all. Just the discussion alone. We had a hearing with the hegseth back a few months ago. Mike Turner asked him a very specific question, and he asked, do we have plans to invade Greenland? And he avoided the question. Mike said, you might not have understood me. I'm paraphrasing. He says, do we have plans? And he said, we have plans for all contingencies. It was a stunning moment. None of us expected that. It's a NATO ally. We are supposed to go for their defense. And the idea of taking it by force is not who we are as a nation. It's going to take decades to put our relationships back with our friends and allies, which makes us strong. It is one of the most important weapons we have, or we had, because now everybody's wondering what's going to happen.
Switching to ICE, you have introduced legislation that would require immigration officers to wear body cameras. Can you tell us what the current policy is right now on body cameras?
For ICE, there is none. So there is nothing for them to enforce. Quite frankly, there's probably very few venues around this country who have not already incorporated the cameras. Back in New Jersey, there was an issue going on with our state police years ago, and they were one of the first to wear body cameras. It was a settlement for in a court order. Initially, the policemen didn't want it. Now you will talk to state troopers who won't go out without a camera. It's about the truth. The camera doesn't lie. And it puts people at ease because they can see what happened. There's transparency. So this is actually to benefit ICE because when they hide behind masks, when they don't identify themselves, the trust that police departments around the country have with the community is put at risk. And we saw what happens when just a split second and somebody can get shot and killed. And the idea that there were 3 officers in that immediate area, including the shooter, and we don't have that information from each of them. Again, transparency and the cameras don't lie.
And Congressman, who would have access to the video on those cameras?
That's a great question. There will be protocols set up that, first of all, who wears them? Any of the officers who are forward facing the public. That's incredibly important because we're not talking about putting them on desk duty or something like that. That if there is a complaint filed, that they will hold the film for up to 6 months unless it's extended by a request. If there is a question or a complaint made by the public, they immediately are put into a hold pattern so they can't be erased. That's incredibly important for people to have access to that. But there also would be a committee set up of community, lawyers, law enforcement to walk through and set up the very issues that you're talking about. Who gets access and when do they get access? Because that's incredibly important for people to trust it.
And would state and local officials have access to those cameras as well in any subsequent investigation?
So as we saw in that horrific shooting in Minnesota, they would absolutely, because here it is, a confrontation that somebody died. And we need to have access to that. Transparency. The idea that Kristi Noem would put out a statement immediately before finding out the facts is just nothing short of reckless. And we see this time after time with ICE. The organization needs to be abolished. That seems strong, but it's fundamentally broken from the top down. And unfortunately, because of what they have done, instilling that confrontational attitude, it's broken. I believe it needs to be done away with and built again with trust, because we do have to enforce our laws, but we have to do it in a transparent way that people trust.
And Congressman Norcross, there is the funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security coming up for a vote. How will you be voting on that?
Let's make this absolutely clear. No, I am not going to fund to give an axe to the executioner. The idea that we aren't able to put into place some of the very fundamental, transparent issues and policies, there's no way I can fund that. They already got billions of dollars, billions, 170 billion in the big ugly bill. So you can see they're rushing to judgment, building up a force that is not always qualified or fully trained. We have included some additional monies for training that they have to do de-escalation. I unfortunately, in my hometown of Camden City, went through this almost a decade ago. And the idea of rebuilding a force along with the community that's transparent, that we trust in, changed the dynamics of that city, went from one of the highest murder rates in the country to one of the lowest. We can do this, but we have to do it together.
One of your colleagues, Democrat Representative Henry Cuellar of Texas, said this about funding, quote, we wanted more oversight of DHS, but look, Democrats don't control the House, we don't control the Senate or the White House, but we were able to add some oversight over Homeland. He is saying that voting against it and possibly causing a partial shutdown would not give Democrats what they're looking for as far as reform for ICE.
Well, certainly, as I just mentioned, having some reform, minimal as it is, that is a step in the right direction. I don't think anybody believes for a moment that there's going to be a shutdown. Remember, they control the House. They have the ability to pass this. We don't need to sharpen the axe so they can go out and continue to commit these egregious offenses. We know those who are here trying to hurt our nation, who've been convicted, there's not a problem, I think, with removing them in an appropriate way. We've done the right thing along the border to make sure it's safe. We need to secure our borders. But the idea that just keep adding money without the guardrails, I think, is a big mistake for our country, and I certainly won't vote for it.
All right, that's Representative Donald Norcross, Democrat of New Jersey. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Have a good day.